Mike McGarry, columnist from the Press of Atlantic City, covers it all, baseball, football, high school sports, from top to bottom. And he joins us now here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN on a Wednesday. Michael, what's going on, man?
Hey, Mike, how are you?
Everything is good. Everything is very peachy. Now, let me ask you this. We've been talking a lot throughout the year about the Phillies and where they are. Joe Girardi, your opinion. Hot seat, not hot seat. I mean, I feel like this is getting down the Andy Reid road, man, of we need to do a better job. And last night he said it again. Well, we keep working 144 games into the season. What are you working on? It's not working.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have questions about his future, right? I think that's fair to say because he's going into the final year of his contract. There is a club option for the following year, but most teams and most managers don't like to have that lame duck status. So I think whenever the Phillies' fate is decided, and I think it's going to be decided fairly soon that they're not going to make the postseason, the first of many questions the Phillies face in the offseason will be, is Joe Girardi coming back? Does he want to come back? Because he's got that third year of his contract. Is the team going to pick up his option? Does he want to be a lame duck? I think that's the first of many questions the Phillies face in the offseason, and I think as soon as they get eliminated, boom, Joe Girardi moves front and center.
I know it's easy to say, look, Kapler made the playoffs. They're the best team in baseball right now. But this team has sunk in September for, 4 or 5 straight years now. It's been the same exact thing. They're in it till the end of August, and then September comes. They're 4-8 in the month of September right now. So how is that continuing to happen? Is that more on this front office, or is this more on Joe Girardi, and was it more on Gabe Kapler?
I think it's more on Matt Klentak and Andy MacPhail. I think every day you take a step forward. I think you look at the Klentak-MacPhail era and the rebuild that was supposed to happen during the 5 years they were in charge as an utter failure. Because you're exactly right. The same sort of mistakes, the same sort of season-ending storyline is playing out under Gabe Kapler, under Joe Girardi, as it did under Gabe Kapler. And you say, hey, Girardi had success in New York. Kapler's having a ton of success in San Francisco. Maybe the problem isn't them. Maybe it's roster construction. And right now, the roster construction of the Philadelphia Phillies is squarely on the shoulders of Klentak and MacPhail era. I mean, the rebuild looks like it's in major need of a rebuild right now.
You're right about that, and I don't want to get too far into the offseason yet because we'll have those conversations in a couple of weeks if, in fact, they don't make the playoffs. But does this feel a lot like what Chuck Fletcher had to do with the Flyers, where he just had to scramble the pieces up just to change it? Because we've talked about it at the trade deadline, Mike. There's not a lot of attractive pieces to fix this team in the offseason that other teams are going to want.
Mike, you could almost make the case that this team has got to begin the rebuild again. You look at the questions. You mentioned Girardi. Okay, what are you doing at third base? What are you doing at shortstop? What are you doing in left field? What about the future health of the catcher? What do you do with Aaron Nola? Do you need another starter that Eflin's out? You don't have a fifth starter right now. Your top 3 pitchers in the bullpen, Naris, Bradley, and Kennedy, are all free agents. That's off the top of my head. What are you doing in center field? What about Scott Kingery? What about Mickey Moniak? I mean, we just off the top of our head there listed like 13, 14 questions that have to be addressed. And I don't know if you have the answers to them all in one off season.
No, you're right. And you just mentioned, Herrera's been playing center field for you. You're lucky that you got what you got out of him after not playing at all last year. McCutchen's a free agent. Segura is having one of his best seasons ever. You didn't capitalize on that. Didi's back next year at $14 million. You just said you got to figure out third base. Even over at first base, is Rhys Hoskins and are you going to be able to keep those 2 guys again? I mean, they have a ton of questions, but was the first hint yesterday when they finally pulled the plug on Vince Velasquez? Is that it's time to start breaking up some of these guys who have been here too long?
Well, the reason for Phillies fans' optimism is I would go back a couple of weeks ago when Dombrowski remade the front office and said, hey, whatever we're doing player development-wise isn't working. The guys that were doing it, you're out. These new guys are in. We're going to hire a new player development guy. And then you look at Velasquez going to – that means they're not going to rely on the same old answers to answer the questions that they've had for the past couple of years. At least Dombrowski recognizes, hey, the way we're doing things now isn't working. It's not working putting Vinny Velasquez out every fifth day. It's not working. The play development guys we have aren't working right now. We're not producing any homegrown players. In fact, our homegrown players are getting worse, not better, since we've drafted them. They're going the opposite way. So the lone hope you have as a Phillies fan right now is that Dombrowski, who has built championship organizations before, recognizes it as an issue and so far hasn't been shy about fixing those issues.
Yeah, well, guess what? Even if they somehow got hot, because they do play the Cubs, they do play the Mets, they do play the Orioles, they do play the Pirates, there is, I guess, that life support kind of hanging on to this season. You would imagine Dave Dombrowski's not going to get roped into the fool's gold even if they made the postseason.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I wrote today. When it comes to, it's on the website now, when it comes to the playoffs, they look like fool's gold, right? Dombrowski's not going to be fooled. This is a team that's lost 6 out of its last 7 games. They look like anything but a playoff team. They're 5 back in the loss column with 18 to play. I know everybody likes to point to 2007 when they were 7 back or 7.5 back with 17 to play. But that team had Rollins, Utley, Howard, Cole Hamels, Victorino, Wirth, Jamie Moyer. Those guys aren't, to use the word of Rick Pitino, those guys aren't walking through the Citizens Bank clubhouse anytime soon. So, I mean, Dombrowski is not going to be fooled by anything. And the mathematics say the Phillies are still in the playoff hunt. But, looks tell my eyes tell me no way. Yeah,
the must-win column appears on Friday, and we're starting to feel that we're getting to that portion of the season. By the way, Bob in Ocean City read your column, and he says, Mike, I disagree with Mike McGarry's article about Bryce Harper understanding what it's like to play in Philadelphia 100%. How many times has Harper been called out for lack of hustle here and in Washington? L.A. called him out last night. Would it make a pimple on Bobby Clark's ass? I know where he can shove that rally hat. That's from Bob in Ocean City. So Harper, is he a guy that gets enough flack for what's happening with this team?
Well, I completely disagree with that. I mean, Bryce Harper has, and I have been to a ton of the games and watched a lot of the games. Bryce Harper's a guy who plays hard and hustles every day. I think last night what he did was almost play too hard. If anything, he's guilty of being too aggressive on the base paths, and it almost cost him last night, too running into outs sometimes. I think Harper's a guy who's played hard every day. I think the numbers that he's put up are phenomenal this year. I think he's playing through injuries, the back, the wrist. Here's a guy who got hit in the face earlier in the year. Let's not forget about that. Missed only a few days. I don't see how any Phillies fan could have any complaints with what Bryce Harper's done this year. He's the least of the Phillies' issues.
And obviously you got an MVP candidate, a Cy Young Award candidate, and here you are. Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City. Check out his piece on the Phillies today on them pretty much being fool's gold, and I don't think most people would be telling you you're wrong about that column today. His must-win column appears on Friday. I want to get a quick thought. I know Friday we'll talk more about the Eagles and the 49ers, but much different challenge this week, Mike. A lot of people, the Eagles won, but they only beat the Falcons. This is a much bigger challenge this week.
Yeah, I mean, the 49ers, they put 40-something points on the board and really handled the Detroit Lions until the Lions made that comeback kind of when the game was in hand. You have a team that was in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. You're going to have a better idea of what the Eagles are after this week, when they step up in class here and really begin a tough part of their schedule right now, which is why last week's win was so important with the games they've got coming up. So, the advantage for the Eagles is they are at home. They have plenty of momentum. They looked great last week. But again, let's see, we go week to week in the NFL. Let's see how we feel about 4:10 on Sunday afternoon, basically.
All right, then tomorrow night it's your Giants, Mike McGarry, taking on the Washington football team. Someone's going to be 0-2. So how important is the week 2 matchup?
Well, for the Giants, and I think Washington maybe has a little bit more leeway. They won the division last year, albeit with 7 wins. I think for the Giants, it's a flat-out must-win, if not for the emotional sanity of their fan base. I think the Giants have It's hard to believe, but I heard something on the radio the other day. I think the last 5 or 6 years, they actually have the worst record in the entire NFL. So forget about like those Jacksonville and the teams we think are horrible. It's actually the Giants who are the worst team in the NFL. It seems like every year they're starting 0-4, 1-5, 0-6. For the emotional health of the fan base, and probably my emotional health as well, we cannot take another 0-2 start. We can't start 0-2, so you have to go down to Washington. I know it's week 2, but it is a must-win down there.
Oh, there we go.
Especially you get a break. The backup quarterback is starting. You have to go down there and win that football game in Washington. And either way, the loser is 0-2, and I don't care what you say about the NFC East division. 0-2 in football is a big deal.
Mike McGarry, the Press of Atlantic City, his must-win column is on Friday. Give us a quick little look ahead to Friday night high school football.
2 big games this Friday night, 2 big rivalries out at St. Augustine. You've got St. Joe at St. Augustine, 2 parochial powers, meeting. And then the big one in Linwood, Ocean City and Mainland. It's a big deal when they meet in any sport. It's a bigger deal when they meet in football. Mainland's going to be honoring the 1995 team and celebrating the first year that lights went up. It should be packed down there at Linwood. So, 2 big rivalries that make high school football great being played Friday night, and should be a great weekend.
All right, more on that Friday from Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City. All right, Mike, thanks, man.
All right, we'll talk to you on Friday. See you later.
We sure will. I'll always enjoy a lot of fun talking with Mike. He'll be back on Friday. His appearance is brought to you by Calvi Electric, now offering residential services for your home and business online at calvielectric.com. That's Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City, who joined us today here on the Sports Bash.